What is your best parking spot revenge? This happened about 3 years ago when I was living in this apartment complex in downtown. The parking situation was absolutely brutal. We had assigned spots, but there was this one guy, let's call him Brad, who drove this massive lifted pickup truck and thought the rules didn't apply to him. Brad lived in Unit 4B and his assigned spot was right next to mine. But instead of parking in his own space, he would deliberately park his huge truck across both spots, taking up mine and his, every single day. At first, I tried being reasonable. I left polite notes on his windshield asking him to please stay in his designated space. The notes would disappear, but nothing changed. I talked to the apartment manager twice and she said she'd look into it, but Brad kept doing whatever he wanted. This went on for 2 months. 2 months of having to park 3 blocks away and walk through sketchy neighborhoods at night because this selfish jerk couldn't be bothered to park between the lines. The breaking point came on a Friday night in December. It was snowing, I was carrying groceries and my laptop bag, and I really needed to park close because I twisted my ankle earlier that week. I limped to the parking lot hoping maybe Brad had learned basic human decency. Nope, his truck was spread across both spots as usual, but this time he'd also left his trash scattered around the area. Fast food bags, empty beer cans, cigarette butts, like he was marking his territory. That's when I decided to get creative. I knew Brad worked construction and left every morning at exactly 6 a.m. His routine was predictable as clockwork, so I started planning. First, I did some research. Turns out Brad's truck had these expensive custom rims he was super proud of. He was always posting pictures of them on social media, bragging about how much they cost. He treated that truck like his firstborn child. Phase 1 of my plan started the next Monday. I bought a bag of those little pebbles they use for fish tanks. Every morning after Brad left for work, I'd place exactly one tiny pebble behind each of his tires, right where he couldn't see them when he backed out. This went on for 2 weeks. Brad started getting paranoid because he kept hearing these little ping sounds when he reversed, like something was hitting his precious truck. He'd get out and walk around looking for damage, but never found anything obvious. Phase 2 is where things got interesting. I noticed Brad always parked in the exact same position, so I started placing a small piece of clear tape on his windshield in a different spot each day. Nothing big enough to block his vision or be dangerous, just annoying little pieces that would catch the light weird and drive him crazy. Brad started spending 10 minutes every morning walking around his truck looking for whatever was making the weird noises and checking for damage. I'd watch from my window as he got more and more frustrated, but the masterpiece was phase 3. I found out from my neighbor Katie that Brad was dating this woman named Michelle who would come over every Wednesday night. Brad was apparently trying really hard to impress her because he thought she might be the one. So I waited for the perfect Wednesday. It was supposed to rain that evening, which made everything even better. About an hour before Michelle usually arrived, I went down to the parking lot with a bucket of water mixed with biodegradable soap and carefully poured it all around Brad's truck. Not on the truck itself, just on the ground surrounding it. Then I sprinkled a bunch of birdseed all over the soapy area. Within 30 minutes, every pigeon, crow, and seagull in a 5-block radius had descended on that parking spot. They were slipping and sliding all over the soapy ground, fighting over the birdseed, and making an absolute mess. When Michelle arrived, she had to park across the street because the entire area around Brad's truck looked like a scene from a nature documentary gone wrong. Dozens of birds, soap suds everywhere, and Brad's precious truck right in the middle of it all. Brad came running out of his apartment when he heard Michelle honking her horn. The look on his face when he saw his truck surrounded by a bird-feeding frenzy was absolutely priceless. But here's the best part. When he tried to get to his truck to move it, he immediately slipped on the soapy ground and fell flat on his back right in front of Michelle. His clothes were covered in soap and bird droppings. Michelle took one look at the situation, shook her head, and drove away without even getting out of her car. Brad spent the next hour hosing down the area and trying to clean bird poop off his truck while I watched from my window eating popcorn. The next morning I found a note on my door. It was from Brad, and it just said, "I'll park in my own spot from now on." And you know what? He actually did. For the remaining 8 months I lived in that apartment, Brad never once parked outside his designated space. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's just making someone realize that their actions have consequences, preferably in the most embarrassing way possible. Michelle never came back, by the way.